Hello, hello, everyone. It is Dr. Siobhan here, founder of Relatable and this amazing group, the Empowered Wives Society. I hope everyone is doing well, that your weekend has been going amazing, and that you are getting some rest, you're taking care of yourself, and not stressing yourself out over needless things, right? That's what we all wish. Well, today I wanted to come on and talk with you about something that I have been personally working on pretty aggressively in my own marriage right now. I think, you know, every couple goes through phases where things build up and resentments build up, and it just makes for maybe not the greatest connection, not the greatest atmosphere and environment in the home. And so I have been really, really focused on my own energy, like how I'm feeling, how I'm behaving as a result of how I'm feeling, and recognize that I really needed to do a deep dive within myself and do some forgiveness work. Now, forgiveness is a topic that comes up a lot whenever I'm working with clients or even in chatting with some of you. A lot of times we are sort of held back because of lack of forgiveness. We can't let things go. We ruminate over them. We think about them all the time. We get all upset and agitated about it all over again. And when I talk about letting things go, when I talk about the topic of forgiveness, I'm talking about everything, right? From the very small, mundane, day-to-day things that maybe just annoy you and frustrate you about your husband, to those bigger issues that really break your heart or that have caused turning points in your actual marriage and in your actual relationship. And I think every couple has a full range of those things. And so as I began to re-engage myself in forgiveness work, this is a topic I've actually studied quite extensively even before I got married, which I think, to be perfectly honest, was one of the things that opened the door for me to be receptive to finding my husband and the love of my life, was because I was really able to forgive some of the things in my past with past relationships in such a way that I enabled myself to move forward. And so even as you think about the context of your marriage right now, I believe it's a similar process. I believe that the process of forgiveness and truly being able to let those things go that aren't serving you anymore really opens the door to a new, better relationship with your husband and with yourself. Because at the end of the day, unforgiveness and resentment and bitterness, it hurts you more than anything else, right? I think we all know that on an intellectual level. We probably feel that on an emotional level, and yet it's still hard to let those things go, especially when they're triggered, especially when they're just so fresh. Even if they happened months, years ago, it's still fresh to your heart, right? And your heart is really sensitive there. It's tender to the touch whenever something touches it that reminds you of whatever you haven't forgiven. So I thought I would come on, as I was thinking about forgiveness, I just wanted to share some of the mistakes or some of the missing pieces I believe that when people try to forgive, that they don't always keep an eye on, that they sometimes maybe don't even know at all need to be a part of their forgiveness equation. And if they do know, they don't really know how to do it in an effective way that actually moves them forward. So I wanted to just share, again, as I entered this process for myself, what really, really worked for me. I always try to think about, as I'm going through things in my own marriage, how I can share it with you in a tangible, concrete, and actionable way so that you can actually do something with it, right? And so one of the first pieces I think is so important about forgiveness is being able to uncover the core belief that is causing you pain, the core belief that is causing you the anger and the resentment. What do I mean by this? So a lot of times when we enter into a process of forgiveness, we focus on what it is the other person did, said, didn't do, didn't say, right? We focus on them. We focus on the situation. We focus on what actually happened. And by putting the focus there, right? We're sort of misguided into thinking that the resolution to moving forward, right, the healing of the forgiveness is really a function of righting that wrong situation, right? So a lot of times we get frustrated and resentful and we want the person to make it right for us. But what I know, again, through studying this and having to apply it in my own life, is that it's really not about what the person actually did or didn't do. Just bear with me, right? Because I know, I hear you in your head right now. You're like, but wait, no, he did X, Y, and Z. It's straight up wrong. Yes, yes, I'm not going to fight you on that. But in addition to that, right, in addition to his wrongness, what is really causing you the deepest amount of pain is the story you tell yourself about it. So what does it mean that he texted that other woman? What does it mean to you that he no longer talks to you? What does it mean to you that he's not as supportive as the way you would like him to be, right? So he has the behavior, he has the action, but beyond that, right, to really get through the forgiveness process, you have to uncover what it is you make it mean, right? We assign meaning to everything in our life, and the meaning we assign things either make us feel good or it makes us feel bad. And that is a function of our thinking. That is a function of a core belief. So as I went through a list of many, many things, my husband has done or said or hasn't done or hasn't said, what I began to do is I began to categorize it into a core belief. And I asked myself the question, what am I making his behavior mean? And so then I uncovered what the core belief was. So that's the first missing piece, is that we don't, a lot of times, know how to uncover that core belief. And that's something I've had to learn how to do, and something I think I can easily teach you how to do very, very simply. So that's number one. Number two is we've got to heal that. We've got to heal that core belief. What does that look like, right? So part of it includes compassion and grace, and part of it includes looking at a painful truth that we don't want to admit. So the compassion and grace part, what I always find really, really helpful whenever I am engaging in a forgiveness process, and it is a process, it's not a one-time event, is I find situations, times, examples where maybe I did something similar. Maybe not to the full degree, but maybe I violated some unwritten rule, or I offended, or I dismissed, or I neglected, right? And I am so open to hearing that. I pray to God every day to reveal to me the parts of myself that I need to see. That honestly, as soon as I write down the things that have hurt me, I am able to then see how I've done the same thing. It may not look exactly the same, but at its core, it's the same type of thing. And so part of the grace and compassion that you can then offer to your husband in this situation comes as a function of you being able to look in the mirror at the ways that maybe you've let him down in the past, or maybe you haven't been as honest, or as, whatever it is that you're wanting him to do. So that's sort of a sub part of this healing. The other piece is that a lot of times we are blocked. We can't let things go because there's a deeper truth, there's a deeper lesson for us to realize, right? And so a lot of times that includes some inner work. Again, it includes looking at yourself really in a vulnerable and honest way. A lot of times when we feel like our spouse is not meeting an expectation we have, especially when it comes to those emotional needs, the truth, the lesson that we actually need to learn is that we're not meeting that emotional need for ourselves. And the reason we're so frustrated and angry and resentful at him is because we actually just want him to do a job that we're not strong enough, courageous enough, confident enough to do ourselves. So that's the healing work that needs to happen, again, only once you uncover that core belief that's really keeping you stuck. And then the third missing piece in this pathway to forgiveness, in this process of forgiveness, is to shift. Okay, so we said uncover, heal. Number 3 is to shift, meaning you need to shift that core belief, right? And so I always like to ask myself this question: what would I like to think instead? Right? So if I feel like my husband is not making me a priority, right? That's something I think all of us can raise our hand to at some point or another in our marriages. If that's the core belief, underneath that really is that I'm not important to him, I ask myself, what do I want to believe instead, right? Well, of course, I want to believe that I'm important to him, right? And so you rehearse that new belief. As much as you've been telling your story that disempowers you, that causes you grief and sadness and anger and frustration, you can actively tell yourself a different story and begin to find evidence to support that more positive, helpful, productive story just as easily as you can the negative and the garbage that you've been telling yourself. And so it requires really the motivation to do that. It is not necessarily, it's a simple thing, but not easy, right? Like, okay, shift your thinking. That's simple to understand, not as easy to implement. But what it really requires is that you, one, know really clearly what it is you want to believe instead, and then choose to sort of inundate yourself with that new way of thinking. I have a lot of affirmations. I have a lot of things that I write and just remind myself of and post all over the house. If you ever came to my house, you would see I have like post-it notes and scriptures and all these things that are directing my mind in the way that it needs to go on a particular topic. Okay, so those are just 3 things I wanted to share with you really quickly. Again, uncover, heal, and shift. If you are able to do those 3 things, you will find this process of letting go, you will find this process of forgiveness much, much easier. So always when I come on here, I want to extend the opportunity for us to do this work together. Just in case you're listening and maybe tears are streaming down your face or your heart is racing because you feel like I'm talking directly to you, I want you to know, 1, you're not alone. And you don't have to do this alone. Like, my job, my mission, my career is centered right now around helping women just like you, just like me, who struggle with these issues, who really want to be able to move forward, but just can't get it right. You know, you just can't get the right momentum. You can't get out of your feelings. You can't get out of the feeling of rejection and, you know, hurt and all of that. There is a pathway out, and I know because that's the pathway I have to dig myself out so often, and help other women to do the same. So if this resonated with you, if you're like, man, I really have some things I need to unload, I need to forgive, but I don't know how. I get these missing pieces, but I still don't know how to make it real and apply it in my own life. I want to invite you to just have a conversation with me. That's it. It's a no obligation conversation where we can talk about what's going on for you. I can help you identify more specifically exactly how you need to uncover, heal, and shift in your thinking. And then we can discuss if working together in a more intensive way on these things makes sense. So if that sounds at all appealing to you, I would love to connect with you directly. With this video, there is a link that includes just a way for us to connect, for you to share a little bit of information about what's going on and schedule some time on my personal calendar where you and I can talk one-on-one, okay? So make sure you click that link. Make sure you take advantage of this opportunity to get some help in this. I know it's heavy. It's a heavy bag to carry all of the time. So let's lighten the load. Let me carry part of it with you, and let's make sure that we connect. All right, that's what I have for you today. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this has been helpful. Please let me know in the comments what you thought, as well as any questions that you have. I would love, love, love to support you and help you in letting go of the things that don't serve you and really walking this path of forgiveness in the most effective way. Have a great night.